Hello. Hi. Hello. Welcome to Earth Live Lesson. I am Roisin Taylor, and today I'm going to be talking about a very special bird of prey, the Hen Harrier. Hopefully you were able to watch Roxy the zoologist earlier on. There are so many amazing videos already on this playlist from conservationists across the world talking about all the things that they are really, really passionate about. And I'm so glad to be here with you on this gorgeous sunny Sunday to talk about hen harriers and birds of prey and conservation and the tiny little backpacks to work out where they're going and the adventures that they are going on. Now, a little bit about me. I guess I've always been really interested in wildlife, but probably without really even knowing it. When I was younger, my mum had the most amazing allotment. It was always filled with flowers, and therefore it was always attracting butterflies and insects and bees. And together we built a little wildlife pond in amongst the lettuce and the potatoes that we always used to grow to eat. And over the spring and summer, it gradually would fill with insects and frog spawn, and then suddenly we would have frogs everywhere. And sometimes, when I could run away from doing any digging or picking of any flowers, I'd go and lie down in the long, cool grass. And I'd look up to the sky and I'd watch the birds flying across the sky. And I used to love listening to the bird song, which would fill my ears and help me feel really, really calm. Now, I'm 25 now. I'm a little bit older than I was when I was sitting in the grass looking at frogs and listening to the birds. But now I know just how important birds and wildlife actually are, what amazing things they get up to, and how much we need to protect them. When I was lying in the grass, I always used to make up sort of stories about where the birds were going, where their families were, why they were traveling so quickly. And as I grew up, I came across birds of prey. Now, I'm sure many of you have your own stories about birds of prey and seeing them. Maybe you've seen buzzards, maybe you've seen kestrels hovering about across fields, maybe you've even seen the big red kite, which is a beautiful bird of prey that's a rust colour and it's got a gorgeous fork in its tail. I remember on family holidays in Scotland, we used to see buzzards and kestrels and also a golden eagle. And I remember the first time I saw a golden eagle, I was partly terrified and partly excited to the point of tears in equal measure at just how enormous an eagle can actually be. It didn't seem to make any sense to me. And now I was lucky enough actually last year to work on a project called the Hen Harrier Life Project. Now, this is a project that looks at a very special bird of prey, and it's called the Hen Harrier. And normally, when I ask people if they know what a hen harrier is, people assume it's a chicken. It's not a chicken, even though it has got hen in its name. I'll forgive you for thinking it might be, because actually there aren't very many of hen harriers left in the UK. And it's a very sad state of affairs. But a little bit more about the hen harrier before we go into that. A hen harrier is a bird of prey, as I've already mentioned. And that means that it's a bird that hunts other small birds and mammals. And you might have heard the hen harrier be mentioned as a few other names, such as the ghost of the moor or maybe the sky dancer. And that is because two different reasons. Firstly, the ghost of the moor refers to the fact that the male hen harrier is actually a very different colour to the female hen harrier. So at the very beginning of their lives, hen harriers, male and female, look very similar. They've both got this gorgeous brown plumage. The female's a little bit larger, as I'll go on to explain later. But after about 2 summers, the males lose that brown plumage and they turn into this amazing slate grey plumage. And that's where they get the name, the ghost of the moor. And at the end of their wingtips, they have black tips to the end of their wings, and they've got a lovely white front as well. Now, the males are very distinctive. And because of that amazing grey colour, as they fly across the heather in the moorland areas of the UK, which is the northeast of England and Scotland, they blend into our grey skies. Now, the males have a wingspan of about 96 centimetres to 1.2 metres, and the females do too, but they tend to be at the top end of that because, as I mentioned before, the males are actually smaller than the females. And that is because they play two very different roles in the kind of bringing up of their young. So the male hen harrier will fly off to find its prey so that he can feed his mates and their chicks, whereas the female has to stay to protect the nest. She has to keep the eggs warm, she has to keep her chicks fed as well. And that is where her colouring, which is more distinctive, is coming in really, really handy. So the hen harrier likes to nest in heather, which can be found in the moors, and it is a purple, scraggly plant, and they make their nests in this heather that's about 50 centimetres deep. Now, they need to be brown because, of course, they blend into that heather and the brown and purple, scraggly nature of it. And if they were grey or silver or blue or bright green, then it just wouldn't work because they'd stand out. And when they're on the nests, they need to be able to hide and protect their chicks and their eggs from predators like a fox or a stoat. And another amazing thing about the hen harrier is actually the way that the male attracts a female. Now, you might have seen some kind of documentary, maybe it's a David Attenborough documentary about birds of paradise in Papua New Guinea. And these are beautiful, bright coloured birds. And what they do is they'll dance, they'll maybe bob their heads about and wiggle their bums to attract a female mate. Well, in their own special way, hen harrier have a way of attracting a mate too. This is called sky dancing, and this is where they get their second part of their name. So what happens is a male hen harrier will fly up really high into the sky, and he'll twist and he'll turn as he goes, and he'll turn and plummet suddenly all the way to the ground. And then just before he reaches the ground, he'll scoot back up into the sky again and continue this amazing balletic acrobatic dance. Now, he does this until a female hen harrier feels like she is impressed enough. But actually, the sky-based acrobatics don't end there. There's another form of crazy sky dancing that they do. As I mentioned before, the female hen harrier has her nest on the ground. And whilst, of course, she is camouflaged against the heather, she likes to go the extra mile, and he will join in too, in order to make sure that any predators that might be around, such as a fox or another larger bird of prey, don't know where that nest is. So the male will fly back from his hunting trip, and the female will fly out of the nest, away from the nest, and then the male will throw the piece of food or drop the piece of food that he's caught for the female to catch in her talons. And at that point, the male will fly off, potentially distracting any predators, and the female will be able to return safely to the nest. And that interaction in the sky is it's called a food pass. And it's another amazing sight that you can see on YouTube or out in the wild if you're lucky enough. So hen harriers actually eat small mammals like birds and maybe a meadow pipit or a vole, and occasionally young grouse chicks as well. These birds, the hen harrier, are some of the most treasured upland species, but unfortunately now they're really, really rare. The hen harrier is one of Britain's most at-risk birds from people trying to hurt them or kill them. And this is unfortunately called persecution. Now, the most recent studies have revealed that we probably have about 575 breeding pairs of hen harrier in the UK. And a lot of those, most of those, are in Scotland, where there are fewer people. Unfortunately, this is very sad because we have enough habitat and enough food for them to be able to support about 2,650 pairs of hen harrier. So we have a really small number compared to what we could have. And unfortunately, we now know that the reason for this is mainly because hen harriers are being illegally killed by people, which is kind of involving things like shooting or laying out traps for them. And that's obviously incredibly sad. So with this in mind, we wanted to learn a little bit more about these birds, how they were living, and also where they were dying. So we were given the most amazing opportunity to track them using a special kind of technology called satellite tracking. Now, what this is it's attaching a sort of tiny little backpack onto the backs of over 100 hen harriers in the last 5 years. So we have some special volunteers called Raptor Workers, and they are men and women across the UK who look for birds of prey out in the wild, and then they record them. And that's really important for us to understand the populations of birds and things like that. And they would hike up hills and down dales and find the nests to put tiny little backpacks onto hen harrier chicks just before they leave the nest to go and start their lives. And this was such an incredible opportunity because what it meant was that as our birds grew big and strong, we were able to watch where they would go to roost over the winter months. And often that would be with other hen harriers. Hen harriers tend to roost over the winter in small groups, so that it'll help them stay warm and keep safe. And we also watch those young hen harriers fly to new sites in the spring and summer to meet new mates and have chicks as well. So we saw some absolutely incredible journeys, really. Some birds would make very short trips within the UK. Of course, birds, unlike us, they don't see borders. So they would cross between England and Scotland quite happily. Some flew down to Wales to start new lives down there. And some even flew across to Ireland. We had one bird called Skylar who just decided one day, completely on a whim, to fly from Scotland across to Ireland within 3 or 4 days. Decided once she got there, within 24 hours, she wasn't very happy. She didn't enjoy it very much. Could have been that there was other competition or other birds that she didn't get on with, and then flew back to Scotland to live out her spring and summer there. So we've got some kind of shorter journeys going on, but then some of our more adventurous birds also decided to make those longer journeys to France, some to Spain, and some even to Portugal, which was a really amazing opportunity to see a bird fly quite far. So you might have already watched Dr. Lucy Hawke's talk about satellite tags and how we use them. But if not, you should definitely check out her video on the playlist. It's a few videos back. But if you don't know what a satellite tag is, it's a very, very special piece of kit. And it's an impressive piece of kit for what it is, because it's only very small. It's a little rectangle, and it always weighs less than 2 or 3% of an animal's body weight. And this is so that it doesn't disturb them or harm the animal that we're studying, because of course we want to get as much information from that animal and that satellite tag that we can, but we don't want to interfere with its day-to-day life. So for a hen harrier, we attach this little box with a tiny harness that's like a backpack. So kind of, if I was a hen harrier, it would go over and under my shoulders, and these would be my wings. And so it's a snug fit, but it doesn't interfere with its flying or its ability to move in any way. And that rectangle has a little strip of solar panels right on the top. And that means that when our hen harrier is flying around in the sky, the sun is beaming down and charging the battery up on the satellite tag, so that even at night, that satellite tag is working when the sun goes down. So as it kind of the battery will go down over the evening when it's not being able to recharge, but then as the bird is flying, the sun will read it more. So it's a really incredible piece of kit that we don't have to recapture a bird in order to recharge it. That would obviously not be very useful at all. Satellite tag actually works by sending regular daily information up to the satellite in the sky. And these are big information transmitters that fly around the Earth, and they transmit information from place to place. So when one of our hen harriers is flying in the sky, it sends information up to that satellite, and then that sends information down to our computers so that we can make sure that that bird is okay, and we kind of understand where that bird is and what's going on with it. Now, what's really, really amazing about this is that we're not able just to know where the bird is, but we can learn other things about it from the satellite data. So we can see what the body temperature is too. So if you were to take your temperature right now, we could see if you were too warm, we could see if you were too cold, or if you were just right. And with a satellite tag, we're actually able to see if a bird is moving or if it's still, which we call stationary, and whether a bird has a warm body and its temperature is warm and natural, which would mean obviously that it's still alive, or if the temperature is cold, which means that the bird has either died naturally or it has been killed or harmed, which is obviously illegal. So, using these satellite tags is a little bit like being a detective. We can make sure that our birds are safe because we can see where they are, if they're moving, their body temperature. But we're also able to see the exciting adventures that they're going on, whether they're going to Portugal or if they're not going very far away from where they were brought up. They're sticking in the same sites that they were originally in the nest of. Um, and we can use this information that we get from these satellite tags to find a bird if the information that we get from the tag tells us that the bird stopped moving and it's stationary, or that the body temperature has gone down. So then, if we see that it's a very sudden stop, that suddenly we're not getting any more data, that the body temperature stopped as well, then we know that we need to go look for it. So as soon as a bird looks like it's died, whether naturally or if it's disappeared or not, we will go and look for it. So we send out one of our team. And these guys and girls are sort of like a bird detective. They're very cool. They go to find the body of a bird. And they go out into the area that we've had the last known location from. So the last bit of information that we get from the satellite, which beams down to our computer, we can send our bird detectives out to try and find the body of that bird. And then what that means is that we can give that body of the bird, if we can find it, to the vet. And a vet can do an autopsy, they can investigate the bird, and they're able to tell us exactly what happened. So maybe there is a little bit of shot in the bird's body itself. So that would indicate that the bird's been shot. Or maybe there are some teeth marks and some tissue damage, which would suggest that it has been a natural occurrence because of predation, maybe from a fox or from a stoat, or potentially a larger bird of prey. Unfortunately, a lot of our birds are killed by humans, and some just simply disappear. So the satellite tag also disappears, the bird itself disappears, and we never hear from it again. And to be quite honest, those are the most sad times, when we don't get an answer for what's happened for that bird. And just to show you how amazing these satellite tags are and actually what they can do for us, there's an amazing story back from 2017. The RSPB tagged a Montagues Harrier. So a Montagues Harrier looks quite similar to a Hen Harrier. It's from the same family, and it's actually the UK's rarest bird of prey. Unlike the Hen Harrier, these birds spend their winter in West Africa. So rather than a roost sort of a bit down south in the UK, they fly all the way to West Africa, and they'll return home to the UK in the spring. Now, one day when our Montagues Harrier, we called him James, was flying home from West Africa, his satellite tag unfortunately stopped transmitting, and it indicated to us that something happened to James. So we sent out a message on social media. And even though the bird had ended up 2,000 miles away from where we were in the UK, we were able to contact conservationists like ourselves in Algeria, and they were able to find that one bird of prey with that one satellite tag left on him in a remote mountainous area in Algeria, and take his body to a vet to learn that he had actually died of natural causes. So I think what this hopefully shows to you is just how valuable and important these tiny little rectangles of technology can actually be, and how impressive they are, and how resilient and long-lasting they can be. We can kind of watch their journeys and find out why they're injured or how they die. And it really provides a really important piece of information for us as conservationists to learn about the things that are harming these species, so that we can understand what we need to do to better a population, to bring a population of birds of prey back to where it should be. And for the Hen Harrier, we've learned that the biggest threat is humans who are committing illegal acts to harm these birds. So I'm almost out of time, so I'll probably and wildlife science is really so amazing. I feel very, very lucky to be able to learn every single day about a different species of bird or wildlife or insect or plant. And I guess really we're all very fortunate because we get to see animals on the news all the time. We could log onto YouTube and watch footage from camera traps and see what animals do when they think we're not watching. But really the most important message is that we need to be protecting them. We need to provide homes for them and make sure that we can live in harmony with millions of different species of animals and plants and even insects. And I hope that you too are amazed by some of the other videos in these live streams. They'll stay up for the entirety of the time that these live videos are going out. And it really is an incredible channel. I've already watched lots and lots of them. So if you enjoyed learning about hen harriers and satellite tags, then you should definitely go out and check some more of the Earth life lessons out for yourself. I think just before I answer a few of those questions, just a huge thanks to Lizzie for letting me talk about hen harriers. And if you want to learn any more about them and the work that we do, I made a podcast about them, and that's available at www.soundcloud.com/Hen Harrier Life. Or you can Google Hen Harrier Life, and that is an amazing resource because you'll be able to find the amazing maps that we've produced, and that shows you the real-time journeys that hen harriers are making. Some of them, like Skylar, across the island, and some of them, like Tony, all the way down to Spain. So go and check those out and have a bit of an adventure for yourself. And also tell your friends about why we need to protect them, because they're an incredibly important and amazing species. Let's just check out the comments section. Where is the best place to see hen harriers in the UK? Oh, good question, Emily. So we actually have the most hen harriers in Scotland. So if you're up in Scotland, then you're very, very lucky. It tends to be places where their habitat is not threatened and they've got lots of prey species available. So places like the Orkney Islands are really amazing. Islands such as Mull is great. They generally tend to be places where we don't have human threats to that population. So yeah, Mull and the Orkney Islands are the best places to see them. Unfortunately, we don't have very many in Northern England. I think we had 12 breeding pairs last year. And so yes, they're very much at threat. So up to Scotland to see them, and hopefully we can protect them and bring them back down. Are there other birds of prey where females and males are such different colours? Yes, I do believe there are, although this is a particularly interesting species for that, the hen harrier itself, because as I mentioned, they play different sort of roles for protecting the nest and things like that. So they're very, very important as an evolutionary trait to enable them to protect the nest and to get prey and things like that. So they play very special roles. And the final one is, what's the furthest a hen harrier has travelled? Emily, good question. I actually don't know the answer to that. There's lots of hen harriers, although not as many as we'd like, across Europe as well. We have some hen harriers as far away as Russia. And unfortunately, at the moment, we don't have enough data to be able to understand how far these hen harriers are travelling. I think probably the furthest one of our hen harriers has travelled, one of our 100, is probably to Portugal, which I don't know exactly the mileage, but is pretty far, as probably you can imagine. But I suspect there are probably some hen harriers out there who've done some pretty impressive journeys. So really, we just need to get more satellite tags on these hen harriers, and we can learn a bit more about that. I think that's my time up. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who's joined and given some questions. And do check out the rest of the Earth Life lessons. They're an amazing resource. And yes, hope to speak to you all soon. Thank you. Bye.